Another died of an overdose 2 days ago.
Tonight, one woman saves lives as the opioid crisis hits Fort Frances.
I really think it's very important that Canada be aware of, these issues are not just in Nova Scotia. This affects more than the Mi'kmaq.
A new Senate report says the federal government is ignoring the treaty right to fish.
Because I understand wellness and mentality. It's always hard just to talk. I figured why not just be busy with your hands.
And an NWT program aims to lift up women in the territory. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Illicit drugs keep killing people across the country, and it's no different in Fort Frances, Ontario. That's where APTN Investigates reporters Kenneth Jackson and Cullen Crozier were just 3 weeks ago, filming their next documentary on sexual exploitation in Treaty 3. This is what they found after less than a couple hours on the ground. And a warning, this story contains graphic footage that some viewers may find triggering.
Call 911!
This is the space between life and death in Fort Frances, Ontario.
Roll over.
A First Nations woman has overdosed, and her life hangs in the balance.
Just holler if you need help with anything.
And it's happening here, behind the Family Center. The daytime drop-in and soup kitchen has been a lifeline in the community for the last 5 years. It's run completely on donations and volunteers who help people suffering from mental illness, victims of sexual abuse, and youth leaving the child welfare system. For Tracy Lockman, it's ground zero of the drug crisis.
They've all experienced trauma to different degrees, and as a result of that, a lot of them have addiction issues. Okay. They're not, a lot are First Nations, and they can't go back to their communities due to breakdown in family units, due to drug use, or there's no housing. There's no housing available in these small communities.
Tents started going up in late April, and Lockman says she's had to chase drug dealers away. And more recently, people looking to exploit the women.
For a long time, what we saw a lot of was just survival sex. Sex for drugs, sex for money, sex for acceptance. But we're starting to hear about individuals in the area, that whole trafficking aspect. It's like it's evolving.
In fact, as APTN was arriving at the center, Lockman was chasing a local man away.
Just this morning we had a man coming here. I don't know whether he was looking for sex or drugs. He's here often. We've kicked him off the property. We've phoned the police. The women depend on that. A lot of them.
Is he breathing? You got a pulse?
Moments later, Lockman gets a call. It's from the father of a woman living in one of the tents. He wants her to check on his daughter. The young woman is brought back only after Lockman was able to administer 2 quick shots of naloxone.
You saved her life. If you didn't get that call from her dad to go check on her,
No.
maybe we're doing a different story right now.
Yeah.
And you have a dead person back there. She was dead.
Yes, she probably would have. She's been through a lot. Another died of an overdose 2 days ago.
Her mom died of an overdose 2 days ago.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is what you're dealing with. This is just on that level. You're also dealing with predators. Like
Yeah.
today, this morning,
Yeah.
trying to lure them away or give them more drugs.
Yeah.
Maybe he did give her drugs.
Yeah. Oh, could have been.
Because you have proof of him trying to sell patches and stuff.
Yeah. Fentanyl patches.
Fentanyl patches, yeah.
Later that day, a 17-year-old boy was brought back from a suspected overdose. Another life on the brink. Kenneth Jackson, APTN National News, Fort Frances, Ontario.
And you can see more of Kenneth and Cullen's work into sexual exploitation in Fort Frances later this fall on APTN Investigates. Red Earth Cree Nation in northeastern Saskatchewan is holding a special service tonight as the body of 5-year-old Frank Young is returned to the community. Tomorrow night, a wake will be held for the little boy who loved Paw Patrol and was attending preschool. And he will be laid to rest on Friday on neighboring Shoal Lake Cree Nation.
Frank Young's preschool classmates will be part of the grand entry at a service tonight at the Red Earth School gym. It will also include the search teams who found the boy's body in the Carrot River on Saturday, 81 days after he went missing. Yesterday, community leaders and family held a news conference to thank everyone for their support during the search. Family spokesperson Teresa Whitecap spoke of the family's loss.
I was asked to come and speak on behalf of the people behind me. And I talked about my family circle. I come from a very large family circle. And our circle was broken when Frank went missing.
The families were taken to the site where Frank's body was found earlier this week, and they held a ribbons ceremony there, tying white and blue ribbons for Frank in the trees, signifying innocence and Frank's love for the children's show Paw Patrol. Chief Marcel Head from Shoal Lake Cree Nation says the outcome of the search for Frank was not what they had hoped for, and there's deep sadness in their communities.
We hold every member so dear in our hearts, and that they're all important to us. And such like us, Frank, it was important to the community.
Red Earth Chief Fabian Head, where Frank was living with his caregivers, said the high water levels in the Carrot River that runs through the community and where Frank died has posed a hazard for many years. And he took the opportunity to make a plea to the federal government.
Our hay lands, our trap lands, our hunting lands are all underwater. We are running out of suitable land to develop more housing due to the high water table. I'm calling on the federal government as well to reopen or file a specific claim for lands owing under Treaty 5 that we, Red Earth Cree Nation, submitted in 1996. With the water levels being that high, consistently high, it's not safe for children to go near the shore. It's not safe for our hunters, our trappers to roam around and trap and fish and gather for their families.
Grand Chief Brian Hardlot is with the Prince Albert Grand Council, which provided support to Red Earth and Shoal Lake throughout the search. He shared this message.
I say to our First Nations, the communities, our First Nations throughout our territories, let's watch over our children. Let's love our children. Again, every child matters. And that's come on my go. I thank the Creator.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
To the East Coast now, where a group of senators were in Halifax on Tuesday. They were there to release a Senate committee report that studied the implementation of a First Nations moderate livelihood fishery in the Atlantic region and concluded that the federal government is failing First Nations fishers. Angel Moore explains what that means.
The Maritime Museum in Halifax was the stage for the release of a Senate committee report on implementing an Indigenous right-based fishery. Senator Dan Christmas didn't mince words. He said the federal government is ignoring a treaty-based right to fish.
In fact, witnesses said authorities had been harassing Indigenous fishers for years, seizing their gear, making arrests, and effectively criminalizing them for exercising their long-held and Supreme Court-affirmed treaty right.
Senator Fabian Fanning agreed.
We heard testimony from witnesses that law enforcement and regulators have failed in their attempt to prevent the violence and destruction. This is all extremely troubling and a direct result of the federal government's failure to fully implement treaty rights for First Nation fishers.
The committee heard from 30 witnesses over the past year. Shelley Denny was one of them. She testified this past April and hopes the report will get the attention of peoples across the country.
I really think it's very important that Canada be aware of these issues. They're not just in Nova Scotia. This affects more than the Mi'kmaq. So I think it's very important that they shed more light and more awareness on some of the challenges that the First Nations have been having.
The study began in the spring after Sabaganagati First Nation launched their treaty fishery in the fall of 2020, which was met with violence from non-Indigenous fishers. RCMP and fisheries officers were accused of standing by. The report, called Peace on the Water, makes 10 recommendations, such as relocating commercial traps to Indigenous fishers, and that the federal government immediately address systemic racism in the DFO and RCMP.
So the ugly reality of racism in Nova Scotia and elsewhere is quite evident and undeniable. So we strongly recommend that that the government consider doing more public education.
Another recommendation is to transfer the responsibility from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to Crown Indigenous Relations. However, DFO Press Secretary Claire Techman responded this way. Minister Murray and DFO will continue to work with treaty nations to further implement their right to fish in pursuit of a moderate livelihood. The federal government has 150 days to respond to the report. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Tupuktuk, known as Halifax.
Coming up, why the Manitoba Métis Federation is hosting meetings beyond its borders this summer. Stay with us. Welcome back. This summer, the Manitoba Métis Federation is traveling across the homeland, holding consultations with Red River Métis. A Beyond Borders task force is going to BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Northern Ontario. There are also plans in the works for visits to the Northwest Territories and North Dakota. We spoke with the MMF's Will Guidon earlier this week to find out why the MMF is visiting citizens outside of Manitoba. Will, thanks for being here with us. The Beyond Borders Task Force has been traveling around hosting these meetings. What's the goal of the gatherings?
Yeah, I think, we look at some of the issues that are happening within some of the Métis governance structures, and it looks like there's a lot of challenges, and there is, but out of those challenges comes opportunities. And I think this is an opportunity that the Red River Métis government is taking to talk to its citizens, to talk to the people who want to come home, who are tired of not being served because they don't vote the right way, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we are one nation. There is one Métis nation. And some of the actions and words of these other leaders might lead you to believe that the provincial boundaries actually meant something to us when our nation was being formed and was growing. We're here to say that the colonial borders that were put in place by a colonial government, these square lines, straight lines, square boxes of provinces, they're not who we are. We are the Métis Nation. We have a homeland, and we are a people, a distinct nation, and we just are inviting people to come back home.
This isn't sitting well with some, including the Métis Nation of Alberta. Can you respond to some of the concerns that other Métis governments might have with this?
Yeah, it's quite understandable that they would be upset because their people aren't supporting them. Their people want to come home to the Red River. There was one comment, I believe, in a statement by the President of Alberta about this being undemocratic, and to me that actually seems quite the opposite, where we're talking to people, we're listening to people. There is something in the charter called the freedom of association, so if people want to join the Red River Métis government, they have the absolute freedom to do that. That's protected under the Canadian Charter. As well, you know, if there was everything was going so hunky-dory, people wouldn't want to reach out to someone like the Red River Métis, who are trying to unify the historic Métis Nation rather than divide us up into the sum of parts. So I would challenge them to look after their citizens, and if they do, then they probably wouldn't have come to this part of history of our nation.
So are you signing people up for Manitoba Métis Federation citizenship?
Yeah, so we're mostly reaching out to folks who are citizens already. So there's we have over 2,000 people outside of the boundaries of what is now known as Manitoba, and there's more coming all the time. Like last night, there was I think at least a couple dozen application forms that were handed out, and people are really, really interested in knowing what's going on. This is the first step in a long journey. It's going to take a while. It took a while for the Métis National Council to implode and become a pan-Indigenous organization. So now it's going to take a little while to rebuild. But make no mistake, the President David Chartrand, our cabinet, the Red River Métis government is very, very focused on reuniting the historic Métis Nation, bringing us back together to a place where we are pointing the Red River carts out rather than pointing them in.
So would this be a new effort to, or an effort to establish a new national Métis organization like the Métis National Council?
Yeah, well, that's a loaded question because I don't think that will happen again. The Métis National Council is a failure, and we will not recreate that failure. So we are listening to people, how they think the new structure will look like, how their voices will be heard and reflected in a democratic government. But yeah, we're not going to repeat the mistakes of the past, and there's no doubt that the Métis National Council in its present form is an abject failure.
Well, we'll unfortunately have to leave it there, but do appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thanks so much, Dennis. I really appreciate being here.
And you can find more on that story over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Time for another quick break. Coming up, Women Helping Women. A new support group gains traction in the NWT.
Welcome to Women's Support Group tonight. Thank you all for coming. Tonight.
Welcome back. Let's take a look now at our photo of the day. And our very own Chris Stewart was recently on vacation in Jasper National Park, located in Alberta, where he was able to capture this shot of an incredibly beautiful area. Every picture with mountains always looks fake to me. If you have a photo, email that photo to share at aptn.ca for a chance to be our next photo of the day. Here now is tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 25 and cloudy for Halifax, 23 in Charlottetown, 14 with rain in Kuujjuaq, cloudy day and 12 in Nain. Showers and 23 for Montreal, Val-d'Or, and Chibougamau. 22 and sunny in Sault Ste. Marie, 24 for North Bay. 25 under the sun in Thunder Bay, 27 for Sioux Lookout. Showers and 25 for God's Lake, 24 with rain in Norway House. 27 and rain for Winnipeg and Brandon, rain and 29 in Dauphin. Sun's out and 29 for Regina, Saskatoon, and Swift Current. 27 under the sun in Meadow Lake, rain and 21 for Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, 24 in Peace River, High Level, and Fort Chip. Sunny and 28 for Edmonton, sun's out and 31 in Lethbridge. 23 and sunny in Vancouver, 22 for Victoria. 19 with showers in Prince George, rain, and 16 in Smithers. 13 with rain in Old Crow, rain, and 16 for Whitehorse. 19 with showers in Yellowknife, 12 and rain for Norman Wells. 19 and rain in Sax Harbor, 7 with showers in Inuvik. 16 under the sun in Whale Cove, 13 in Chesterfield. 11 with showers in Resolute, 15 and sunny in Igloolik. A new wellness group is gaining traction amongst women in a small Clecho community in the Northwest Territories. Our reporter Charlotte Moore Jacobs explains how the program aims to build healthy supports for individuals.
Okay. Welcome to Women's Support Group tonight. Thank you all for coming.
This is what Clecho community members have been asking for. Informal social gatherings to encourage healthy lifestyles. Clecho Healing Path Coordinator Stephanie Rabiska has been organizing the weekly women's group in Béchacon since April.
At this point, we're doing consultation with community members in all 4 Clecho communities to create this addiction strategy. So it's called Addictions to Wellness Strategy. And this strategy will have programs, aftercare, resources, things you need to help encourage sobriety and provide supports that we don't really have in the Clecho region.
First step is admitting you have a problem, right? And that's the hardest step. That was my hardest step.
Veronica Mantla is this week's local speaker, sharing her story of addiction and recovery to inspire discussion.
I was nervous. I thought, oh my God, they're going to give me a mic and I'm going to have to stand in front of everybody. And it's really nice that we can be able to sit together and talk and bead, and yeah, that's what I liked about today.
And then you just tug at it.
Cassandra Migui shares her story of wellness through art.
Because I understand wellness and like mentality. It's always hard just to like talk. I figured like why not just like be busy with your hands. And then like I know it's hard for people to have eye contact and stuff like that. So like you're all busy at the same time. You're all connected.
Migui is this week's cultural facilitator, leading the beading portion of the night.
It's a very safe space for everybody. So it's just somewhere for someone to go and just like talk and just like let out.
Folks here discuss the challenges they face when having to leave the north to seek treatment down south.
Being back kind of discouraged me. I was home and there was a lot of alcoholism happening and it was really hard. There was no programs like this back then, and I'm really proud there is a program because if people come back from treatment, they can come here and they have all the support here.
Rabiska says a big step for the Clecho Healing Path will be moving into this permanent wellness space by September. Until then, she says the goal is to encourage people to keep coming back.
We also always do aftercare too, so either I or the facilitator will call participants afterwards and just check in and see how they're doing and making sure they have that support, because I mean, coming here, we just want to make sure that they're being well taken care of too when they go home, right, and not just here.
Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Béchacon.
Looks like a great program. Thanks, Charlotte. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Wednesday. For news anytime or more on anything you see here, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.